company Oasis Digital, and my wife is the controller, so she gives me the allowance at home and the allowance at work. But we're a custom software development shop, and we have a number of teams working on a number of projects for customers around the country. And then a couple of years ago, we decided that we wanted to be really good at what we did and be really good with the tools that we used. So we actually teach a number of classes. JIRA, which is obviously the one I'm here to talk about. We also have a number of classes on RESTful APIs and on Angular. We're even introducing one on Aurelia, React, Angular 2. We've got a number of classes that we teach on across the whole protractor. In the testing environment, we use Selenium, we use Jenkins, we use all this stuff that has been talked about here today. Now, ironically, when I get involved in the JIRA class, about half the time I'm dealing with companies that do not focus on software. Software development is not their primary focus. They want to use JIRA for project management. So, which is part of the reason why this little rebranding thing is starting to happen here. We've got JIRA software, we've got JIRA core, and things like that. So let me roll through this here real quick. I described JIRA, and many of you know this because you've been working with it for a long time. It's a box of Legos. What do you want to do with it? You can build it. That's also its biggest problem, which is how people get into a real mess and they're still stuck on 4.x here in 2015 because they can't upgrade because of all the customizations they did and these scripts that they run and all this funky stuff they modified in the database. Anybody here in that position? So you're not alone. I have somebody in about every class who's dealing with that kind of a situation. So they're starting to build some skins. I can joke about it. Here I am making Lego jokes, and we're a year late. I should be making Star Wars jokes, but like my kids say, I'm always a year behind. So we got JIRA Service Desk, now JIRA Software. They're coming. There's other things that they're doing to package this up and make it a little easier to use. So what we do is we typically get involved and we go and we work with a team. We spend a day or two whiteboarding everything that they do and everything that they want to manage and working through using JIRA. And often it'll be a combination of agile teams working on the software side, but they're driven by this PMO that wants this level of reporting and accountability up to the management team. There's a whole bunch of factors driving this, driving the use of the application. And so we like to, for lack of a better term, tear it all apart, look down deep into JIRA, and use things in a healthy way, and customize workflows, fields, screens, security on a per issue type basis, and identify all the types of work that are going to happen, and build all these things out. Many people have customized JIRA at a pretty deep level. I'm sure some of you in here have, and so I apologize if this is boring to you. But many people just use it out of the box. They're just using the Agile plugin, they're just pounding away at it. They don't really understand all the various things that you can implement, everything that you can pull together as you move forward. And I want to use an example, and this is from the class I did last week. I was at a national carrier. I was working with the consumer and small business unit. They're responsible for managing all the data stores and giving reports and charts and graphs and everything for all different management teams so they can make business decisions. So there's 3 teams that are involved in the project, and they're around the country. There's project management, data development, and visualizations. They had a huge mix of needs. The project management team had to report up. The development team wanted to work in a purely agile way. They're kind of a scrum-bound organization, how it was described earlier. And then the visualization team was really working in a very simple workflow. They weren't working in any sort of an agile fashion. They were just simply, things came in, they cranked it out, they got it done, they shipped it out. If they didn't get it shipped out, somebody was yelling at them. So it was a real straightforward process. And then the engineering group told them, well, they have to operate all within one project in JIRA. So this all has to exist in a single project. And that was the challenge. This was the 4th group I've worked with there. And every other group has had the opportunity to have multiple projects so we could break things out a little more discreetly, but here we had to stuff it all into a single project. So when we look at, and I can share this with anybody of you that would like to have this, we use this in terms of teaching our class and laying out how to put a project together. So if anybody wants this graphic, you can have it. There's some nuances within this, within the configuration of JIRA. This has been updated to the latest version, and it's one of a series of graphics that we have that kind of help people walk through the process of customizing their JIRA instance. But what I want to point out is you've got all these various mechanisms, you've got the issue types, you've got the field configurations, the issue types, screen schemes, and the workflow schemes, and those are all applied on a per issue type level. So when you have a batch of, looking at my time here, I realize it was on the screen. When you have a pile of issue types, you need to be able to differentiate, separate things out, and then obviously the mapping is here within the system to do that. It's funny how many people I run into that have been using JIRA for a long time. They've seen these things, they really don't understand what they are, what they do. They poke around enough to get something to work, and then they forget about it. But after a while, after going through this a few times, all of a sudden the light bulb goes off, and they start to realize how to put everything together and how to make things work. So in this example, these are a few of, they actually came up with 13 issue types that are involved in this project. The project management team has the new feature, modification, and an ad hoc request. And these issue types are then tracked and visible up through the organization. Then the data development team has a more traditional software development set of issue types. Those are visible within their work team. And then the visualization group has a couple of work issue types as well. The project management team works through this kind of a workflow. They go through all the requirements process. They'll get together with the stakeholders, they'll identify all the work that needs to be done, and then they'll decide where it needs to go. And at this point, they're shipping the work to one of the other teams. And we built into the workflow here some conditions that it can't move on until the associated work is done, kind of a standard condition that you can apply in the workflow. But the important piece that they do here is they're tracking this overall initiative, this bit of work that needs to be done, and then they create a seed issue for either the data development team or the visualization team that then gets exploded out into all the work that needs to be done. So they'll create, depending on the criteria, they might create an epic for that group to work with, or they might just create a simple story for that group to work with. And then they'll start breaking out anything else that needs to be done within that team, go through the sprint planning process, keep everything moving in a normal, agile way within a project that is being managed in a more traditional way. And then once that work is done and those issues have all been resolved, then it gets moved on into testing and then goes through the rest of the process. So this is more the overall project management workflow. I've seen this executed in separate projects as well as integrated into the same project. And I've seen this work pretty well. I'm not advocating for any particular choice here. I'm down to 1 minute. Ouch. All right, here we go. Boom. All right, so you guys all know what this is. This is development workflow. The dev team does their thing. I mean, everybody here has been talking about software development, so that work all gets done in a pretty effective way, and it flows through the process and kicks the project management off. And then the other team, like I mentioned, has a real simple workflow for making their work happen. So I will wrap it up. But the basic point here is that most people don't realize what they can do if they actually just apply a little effort to understanding how the tool can be teased into doing what they need to do. And it can be done in a way where you're not stuck on an old version. We tend to look at add-ons last, and we tend to tear into the tool first to get what the group needs to get done. So, Anyway, so there's my information if you want. Any questions? Yes, sir.
What is the performance impact by adding hundreds of custom fields or statuses or other customizations to the tool?
I've not seen a lot, well, all right, so some of them have an impact and some of them jump. Having a bunch of issue types in the system, I've not seen that have a huge impact on performance, but having a pile of fields sure will. To crank up the memory. There's a lot of people in here that have a lot of experience with that kind of stuff, but that's been my experience. The fields impact, you need more memory. A lot of add-ons use up a lot of memory too. ECBI is one of them. So, did I answer your question? Any other?
This one may not have a solid answer, but we're using JIRA as an opportunity for a lot more project management, less software development. How do you convince people that JIRA isn't scary, that it's okay to use for those that aren't in technology? That kind of
You buy enough beer. So, no, it's
a long way to shed fear for someone like that.
I'm just kidding. The reality is, it's just a tool. Once you know how to use the tool, once you know the language, once you know the terminology, and most of the students in my class tell me, they'll ping me back later, they'll ask questions and whatnot, and they'll say that just showing them that chart that I've got up there kind of simplifies everything and demystifies things a little bit. But that's been most of them have it up on the wall. I mean, that's what I've seen.
Do you have access to those customers that are in scary?
It's everybody in my work.
So I don't pick them off one at a time.
We're all a voluntary organization.
Yeah, so I pick them off one at a time and I talk to them about what their process is like, and I just create the JIRA Agile board for them and kind of map the columns out and say, all right, so this is your process. I'm like, yes, you go here, you drag it here. And then after about 5 minutes, they realize, oh, you're right, there is something weird about that, and I can see everything. And then after that, it's kind of a done deal. They want to get more, and then they get into it more.
That's an excellent answer. Moving in through the Agile boards, even for traditional project management.
Right.
That's a huge visualization tool. Absolutely.
That's, I was going to say something similar, to just show it to them, right?
Right.
I'm the development tools guy at Panera, but I also know a guy who runs this for like small motors in shop in Maplewood, and they have, a lot of items in shop, and I set up the JIRA instance for them.
Right.
Show them how to use it, and they think it's super cool. Okay.
Yeah, having examples for people too really helps. Demystifies it. Any other questions? All right, now it's all yours.
All right.